Thank you, Mr. Goyal, for joining us here on India Upfront. Now, I just want to square with you some of what the opposition has been saying. We've heard what the government has said. We've heard Nirmala Sitharaman. We've heard you, in fact, on Times Now Navbharat earlier. I'm going to ask you straight questions. The opposition said it's a zero budget. It isn't inclusive, and it is so futuristic that it has pushed Achhe Din to 2050. In other words, into an indefinite, postponed future. How do you respond to this?
Rahul, I think it's very difficult for unspirited opposition, which is already so demoralized and who has lost the trust of the people of India, to be able to understand the deep thinking that has gone behind this budget. You were just now articulating some of the big ticket ideas behind the budget. And clearly it's a budget that is preparing the foundation for a strong India, an India where every citizen is an empowered citizen, an India where we are looking at developing high quality capabilities in terms of education systems, in terms of health systems. We are looking at manufacturing becoming the base for which the government is acting as a facilitator. We are looking at making it easier to do business, also easier to lead a common man's life, bereft of corruption, without harassment by any officialdom. I think these are ideas on which Prime Minister Modi has worked for the last 8 years. He's worked for every section of society. For the first time, the poor feel that there is a messiah, somebody who cares for them. Women recognize that he's the only leader who cared to give them a toilet more than anything else. I mean, nobody ever bothered about the dignity of our sisters and mothers as much as Prime Minister Modi. So over a period of time, he has earned the trust of the people, and therefore, he doesn't need to give a Chunavi budget. He needs to give a budget that strengthens all of India. It's a budget for 135 crore Indians. It's a budget that will work in every section of society. And therefore, it is a budget that the people of India want.
Mr. Goyal, there are also some economists who said that right now, cash in hand was important. Cash assistance for poor who lost jobs, that there should be no cut in indirect taxes to check inflation. And they've said there has been none in this particular budget. They were hoping that there would be an urban job guarantee scheme. The middle class would be given relief. In fact, many viewers called into Times Now to say that, look, we've been really hard done by. Middle class has not been helped. This is a cruel finance minister and a prime minister who doesn't care. How do you square this?
First of all, in terms of giving money to the poor, I think this government's track record, particularly through the COVID period, has been quite proactive. If you will see, the Atmanirbhar Bharat packages came at regular intervals, supporting different sections of society which needed it the most. Direct money was put into the hands of women. Free cooking gas cylinders were given. Farmers are given money every 4 months through a direct benefit transfer. We run the world's largest food security program. 80 crore Indians, apart from their food security entitlement, are also getting 5 kilos per month additional food grain, fully free of charge. So all of these put together have been a continuum. It's not as if we waited for the budget. Whatever was the need of the hour, we continued to give that. And I think in that sense, this has been a government which acted fast and did not try to club everything waiting for the budget just so that everything...
Fair enough. But your own survey, sir, released yesterday said, and let me just be very particular, that Manrega, the demand for Manrega has gone up, yet the budget seems to cut Manrega allocations. How do you explain
Rahul,
this, sir?
I'll just correct your perception on that. If you recall, the last year's budget also had provided 73,000 crores.
True.
But Honorable Finance Minister had said, whatever will be additional funds required, I will give it in the supplementaries. And today, if you see the revised estimate, it's nearly a lakh of crores or 98,000 crores. Even going forward, should there be the need for more funds? Whereas our effort is that because of the massive thrust on infrastructure development, the production-linked incentive schemes, the focus to get the multiplier impact, provide new work opportunities, give our MSMEs, our entrepreneurs, our startups new areas of work. Hopefully, we will not need this level of Manrega. However, should there be more funds required, the government will not be found wanting. The Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Finance Minister have, through the COVID period, ensured that. And as regards the request for a city-based Manrega or job program, let me, on the contrary, tell you that the larger complaint we hear from infrastructure and industry providers is that they are not getting enough people for work in the cities. We are running the Pragati Maidan infrastructure development program, for example. Manija Bhavan is being constructed. A convention center is coming up in Dwarka. We are continuously stressed for adequate labor. So I think in urban India, people wanting to work are getting work. And going forward, as more and more infrastructure investment in metros, in railway lines, in affordable housing, all of these are picking up, you will find that more and more job opportunities will come up both in the cities and in rural India.
Are some citizens more equal than others? That's something that is being pointed out. Let me specify. 1.63 crore farm as to get a direct payment of 2.37 lakh crores for procurement of wheat and paddy. Our godowns are already overflowing. This is seen as a big sop, while the middle class has been left high and dry. Nothing for the middle class at all.
Well, first of all, the farmers have done us proud. All through the COVID period, they kept our food, grain fully stocked up. It was thanks to them that we were able to distribute nearly 40 lakh tons of food grain every month for about 19 months. I mean, it's not a small amount. It's a big thumbs up for the service that our farmers have done for the nation. It is thanks to the government procurement program that we had adequate...
So the middle class has also done you proud. They paid their taxes honestly and given you revenue so that you can spend.
Absolutely. I'm coming to that. I'm just
on the farmers
and recognizing the farmers and saying that I don't think anybody in this country grudges them any support given to the farmers. By the way, when we procure at MSP, the food grain is distributed under the National Food Security Program to the poor of India. It's not as if you have given 2,37,000 crores only as a grant to the farmers and not got anything in return. The food grains that they give run your NFSA. They ran your large food security program.
So some of your own colleagues had said in different times that, you know, these MSP handouts, etc., only help the Arathyas in the context of Punjab when you were pushing through the 3 farm laws. So there are some contradictions there. But I was on the point of...
I'd like you to correct your perception. We have never said anything against MSP.
Okay.
I think you read it wrong.
Okay.
Or I'd love you to take out a quote and show me that I've said that these procurement in MSP...
But let's get back to the middle class issue.
That's absolutely wrong narrative.
Fair enough. Okay, let's get back to the main issue. The middle class, no change in income tax slabs. The middle class has also been badly hit. It's also paid its taxes all through. The revenues have been burgeoning. Why not link tax exemption limits and exemptions to inflation, for instance? They're done for ministers, they're done for MLAs, MPs. Why not for the middle class, sir?
Rahul, first of all, we recognize and respect the huge contribution of the middle class. And I must say that it is every section of society that collectively make up India. And this budget has addressed the concerns of every section. And I'll explain why. When we look at infrastructure investment in such a big way, it's the middle class, it's the people of India who use that infrastructure, who get an easier lifestyle using all of that infrastructure, who travel, commute, go on vacations, all of that using that infrastructure. The focus on this budget being largely on infrastructure has a deep thinking behind it, because every rupee invested in infrastructure has a multiplier impact on the economy. It provides new demand stimulus, gives new opportunities for MSMEs, for large and small industry, provides work opportunity to our young boys and girls. And all of this, in a way, is pointing towards a larger pie. The effort in the budget is to create a larger pie. And therefore, we have conserved our resources, used every resource available to strengthen the economy, strengthen spending on infrastructure by the government. On the back of that demand and the multiplier effect, we'll have the private sector also looking at investments once the demand is commensurate with the capacities that we already have. And I think all of this will lead to increasing the incomes of the middle class. And the focus of the government is
not in the short term. This is in the long term, provided you deliver on the promises. Let's put that, inject that caveat. Let's inject that caveat.
Committed to deliver on every one of our promises.
Well, sir, not on jobs in the past. And we know that certain figures were proclaimed, but we didn't get to those figures by a long shot. Now, there were a variety of reasons. Anyhow, let me come back to this, because the richest 142%, this is what the former finance minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram, has said. The richest 142%'s wealth has increased from 23 lakh crores to 53 lakh crores, yet no word about raising more resources from the rich. Why have they been excluded? He asks, if this is not really a capitalist-friendly government that doesn't really care about the other section of society.
Well, I think this budget has tried to encourage investments both by the government and by the private sector. And therefore, our focus has not been on new sources of revenue as much as effective deployment of the revenues available with the government, so that it can give a thrust to investments both by the government and an encouragement to the private sector to use the available surplus resources to invest back into the economy, incentivize them to create new jobs, incentivize them to create capacities so that our exports can go up, our foreign exchange earnings increase, our foreign investments come in a big way. So this is a budget which has acted as an enabler for increasing the economic growth, increasing the pie available for the country as a whole, so that every section of society gets new and more opportunities.
Since you said that this is a budget that focuses not on tapping new resources of revenue, but trying to make the best out of existing revenues, is that the reason why you've brought down the privatization, the disinvestment targets downwards, revised downwards?
I think the Honorable FM has tried to be very conservative in almost all her calculations for the coming year. And she has tried to look at what was already on the table, already in the pipeline, take a realistic schedule, considering that this investment is quite a time-consuming process given the various historical baggage that some of our PSUs have. And looking at all of that, she has taken a realistic budget so that we can hopefully exceed that, rather than at any point of time fall short of resources.
Okay, couple of last questions. How do you respond to the criticism that the government has brought in the Bitcoin situation through the back channel by taxing crypto assets at 30%, even though you haven't legalized or brought in a law on cryptos? This is going to create two different types of problems. Yes.
Rahul, there are two separate issues here. One is currency and one is an asset. The crypto world does not have any legal digital currency unless it is backed by the sovereign state or by the federal bank. So Honorable Finance Minister has announced that the Reserve Bank will be coming out with a digital currency, which will be legal tender once the Reserve Bank of India lends its weight and monitors the issuance of that currency. That will be legal tender, and that will be, in a way, leveraging India's strengths in technology, in blockchain, and all the modern that the modern world has to offer, also building upon our fintech abilities. In terms of assets, well, those are privately instituted assets. Every private citizen can own and have any asset that he likes. Government has a right to tax you for the profits you make on the assets that you have. But government has not announced the creation of any legal crypto assets. Those are not being done by the government at all.
So is this an attempt to disincentivize the public from going ahead and investing in crypto assets? Or is this now a recognition that this is an asset set that you need to be looking at and perhaps even creating a regulatory framework?
Well, I think these are assets created by private people or private companies and don't have the backing of any government or of any security. So it's something that the common, that the people have to be aware, and the people have to make a conscious choice on what asset class they want to invest.
Well, thank you, Mr. Goyal. Thank you for taking out the time.